From the Foundation Studio right here on Biloxi's Back Bay, welcome to Super Talk Outdoors, where we celebrate every single Monday at lunchtime the world-class outdoors of the state of Mississippi and the incredibly interesting people who are making it so great. They're so passionate about it, and these are great conversations. I hope you enjoy them as much as I do. You know, Mississippi is a great place to enjoy the outdoors, so those of us who live here, we know we're lucky, but if you're visiting here, y'all come back soon. Thank you for joining us today on the powerful Super Talk Mississippi Network. And if you're listening on Facebook or YouTube or your favorite podcast, it's November the 8th, 2021. Like I said last Monday, fall is in the air. It's that time of year in Mississippi. It's a magical time of the year, especially if you like to hunt and fish. You know, here in coastal Mississippi, you can actually taste the salt in the water again. That means the salinity is coming back to the water. In the bays after record rainfall over the summer. It's been incredible. My son Jordan yesterday, by the way, we call Jordan the fish whisperer. He started to catch some speckled trout, some redfish, and some flounder. So that's a great sign that fall's beginning to settle in, and we're going to get things back to normal back in the bays. It's another beautiful day in Mississippi. I spent the last few days at my place up in the Mississippi Delta Bluffs. It was a great weekend. We did a little bit of bow hunting. We enjoyed the opening of youth deer hunting season. We also finished some chores, finished a bridge that we'd been working on and doing some other stuff. You know, so if you enjoy public land or private land, there's a lot of last minute things that you're doing this time of year to get ready for the season. The hunting is just kind of the part of it. The rest of it is enjoying family and friends. I had the joy of hunting with my friend Jake Carter and two of his daughters. He's got 3 daughters. But 2 of his daughters, Ava and Bella, went with us. And I call Jake my outdoors son. His father, Rick Carter, is a very close friend of mine, but he doesn't hunt and fish. So Jake's been hunting with my family and fishing with my family for many years. We hunted, Jake and Bella and Ava and I hunted a stand we call the CRP stand. And what we have there is this huge shooting house we call the Creech Condo. I helped my friend Mark Creech build it. Incidentally, Mark is another name for Mark is MacGyver. For those of you who remember that show, you know Mark can literally fix anything. You can give him some super glue, some gum, and some masking tape, and he can literally fix a diesel engine. You probably know people like that. We all know people like that. He's a great friend to have. He's also really an amazing person. But anyway, Mark had this huge condo in place for us. We call it the Creech Condo, and it handled the 4 of us really, really well. You know, there were a lot of wasps when we got there, but you know what? It's cool that wasps don't bother you. So I kind of pushed them out of the way. We got into the stand. Girls didn't know about the wasps. I didn't tell them. But during the hunt, every now and then one would appear, and you can imagine the reaction from the girls. This is kind of a new experience for them. And I said, look, girls, and they were very quiet now. That's the beauty of it. They were so quiet. But I said, look, y'all come in here close. I said, and this time of year when it's cool, think of a wasp as a butterfly. So when you see a wasp, it's just a butterfly. It's not going to hurt you. It's fine. You know, every now and then they would notice on the windowsill, they'd see a wasp and they'd say, Mr. Ricky, there's another butterfly. And anyway, life goes on. We continue to experience this hunt. One of them lands on Ava's leg. And I thought, this hunt's going to be over now. She almost had a heart attack. And it jumps from Ava's leg over to Bella's leg. And I said, oh, my gosh. Believe it or not, they didn't scream. And she leans toward me. Ava leans toward me and says, Mr. Ricky, that butterfly is using my pants as a trampoline. You know, you can't. Those are priceless moments. I laughed so hard during that hunt. And we saw a bunch of deer. That's the beauty of it. Anyway, you know, I wouldn't trade those moments for anything. That's what the outdoors is all about. It's about being with family and friends. And again, if you happen to shoot a deer or you happen to catch a fish, that's great. But that's not what it's about. It's that camaraderie and the memories that you make. I can't get enough of it myself, and I know you can't either. Now let's go into the woods with John Taylor and Chris Gurris. John is the volunteer chairman of the board of the Foundation for Mississippi Wildlife Fisheries and Parks, and a really avid outdoorsman. And Chris is also a big-time outdoorsman, and he's also a member of the executive committee for the foundation. Guys, how you doing this afternoon?
We're doing good, Ricky. How are you?
Doing great. Chris, how you doing, buddy?
great, Ricky. Thanks for having us, and we really appreciate all you're doing to promote the foundation and outdoors and conservation in Mississippi. We're real excited about the new show and the guests you're having, and thanks for having us today.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun. You know, it's a small world. When my sons Jordan and Justin and I started hunting with Clay Wagner many years ago at Horseshoe, we met the two of you guys and your dear families and got to know you really well. Who would have imagined in those days that one day we would be sitting here together, the three of us together, on Super Talk Outdoors, talking about the great state of Mississippi and our opportunities we have to enjoy the outdoors. This is a small world, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, those years have gone by so quickly, Ricky, that those kids have grown up. You've got grandkids now. I have grandkids, and it's just, I have fond memories of all of us at Horseshoe, particularly when the kids were young. You know, it was a lot of fun. They were all learning. They wanted to learn. They wanted to know about the outdoors, and it was a great environment to do it.
You know, I remember our good friend Chief Bill Howe taking my sons off into the Netherlands and, you know, being gone for 2 or 3 hours while they were checking traps and just, you know, enjoying the outdoors. But man, those just really some incredible times. You know, Chris, you know, you watched your family grow up there as well, didn't you?
Absolutely, and Horseshoe has been a really special place in my life, and have made some lifelong friends, and just what an incredible place. And, you know, if not for Horseshoe and getting to know Clay and John, heck, I wouldn't be on this foundation and in a position to try to help make a difference like we're trying to do.
I wouldn't be on Super Talk Mississippi because of our association. We didn't know each other than through Horseshoe. You know, I had retired from the media business, and you mentioned my name to Kim and Steve, and the rest is kind of history there. So I really appreciate you doing it. Having the opportunity to do my show on the Coast View, my show on the coast called Coast View, has been a real opportunity for me to remind myself why I enjoy being connected, and trying to make a difference by, you know, bringing awareness to important issues. Most importantly, just celebrating coast of Mississippi, and now through this show, Super Talk Outdoors, celebrating the outdoors. It's been really a gift, and I thank you so much for that. You know, John, if you go back in your career, you've been in the ag business. I mean, you went to Mississippi State, got a degree in the area that involved agriculture. It's really positioned you well over all these years to really understand the roles that outdoors plays in Mississippi, hasn't it?
It has. You know, we're dealing with farmers who I think are probably the greatest stewards of the land anyway. That's where their livelihood is. I think they want to protect it. But we were always outdoors, and these growers, they all had some hunting properties. If they didn't have hunting properties, it was just some timber ground, and it was a way to look at how private lands and public lands can benefit so many people. You know, and I'm a believer in giving back. You know, so this allowed me to do some of this, but this outdoors arena that we have in Mississippi is it's unbelievable. I think we're very blessed with an abundance of waterfowl, ducks, deers, turkeys. We're fish. We're blessed with a lot of it. A lot of places don't have.
Yeah, I might start a campaign to call Mississippi the capital of outdoors in the United States. You think about what we have access to on the coast, the barrier islands, the backwater fishing, some of the best in the world. Literally, some of the best in the world. We have people come here from literally all over the world to enjoy our fishing. And then you think about the Mississippi Delta and the hills and all that goes on in between. Gosh, it's a special place. It really is. And because you've been in the agriculture business, you've been in a real good position to understand. Like, for example, between 80 and 90% of the land in Mississippi is private land. So, you know, in order to be conservationist, you can't be conservationist if you don't include private lands in that discussion. And the role that farmers play in all of that, it's been an incredible learning for you, hasn't it?
It has. And you know, our government has incentivized these growers to implement conservation efforts that has led to better habitat for waterfowl, ducks, deer. I mean, just outdoor recreational activities. The government incentivizes and takes them to say that it was some land that wasn't very high productions, and they take it out of there and put it into where it needs to be, put it back into some sort of program that enhances wildlife.
It's incredible. I see it personally. I lease 3 separate farms, and the work that the farmers do to help us make that land the best it can be is truly remarkable. It really is. And I'm learning more and more about how that works every single day, and the commitment is incredible. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with John Taylor and Chris Gurus as the 3 of us just enjoy a conversation about how lucky we are to enjoy the outdoors in Mississippi. When we come back, we'll hear more about sort of where Chris's love for the outdoors came from. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. We have Chris Gurus and John Taylor, 2 volunteers that are heavily involved in the foundation. One of the major sponsor of this show, Super Talk Outdoors. And we're going to talk more about the foundation here in just a second, but the foundation is the one organization in the state of Mississippi that's helping to sort of bring to fruition lots of really important projects for the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. So eventually we're going to get to a conversation about the foundation, but for now we're just enjoying a conversation about how we all fell in love with the outdoors. Chris, you grew up in Florida. You went to Florida State. You're an avid Florida State fan, and but you live in Mississippi now. What brought you to Mississippi?
So Ricky, growing up in North Florida, my earliest memories as a kid of waking up in the bottom of my daddy's boat covered in speckled trout. And, he was catching them so fast, he wouldn't put them in a cooler or put them on a stringer. And my mother used to get irate with him because I'd come home, 3 or 4 years old, covered in speckled trout slime. And those are some of my earliest memories. And we would dove hunt mostly growing up. And I was daddy's bird boy until I was old enough to shoot a BB gun and try to shoot them when they land in the trees with a BB gun. And later a 410 double barrel that my boys have used as their first, shotgun dove hunting. And my daddy's younger brother, Jimmy Gurus, lived out here in Vicksburg, and he would bring me as a kid to visit Uncle Jimmy. And my first trip out here, I was 8 years old, dove hunting in the Delta. Later, I killed my first greenhead with Jimmy Gurus off an oxbow off the Mississippi River. At 14, I shot my first deer with Uncle Jimmy. Then I killed my first turkey with him when I was 17 years old on Lester Spell's property. Lester was the mayor of Richland and later the ag commissioner for the state. And at a time when I was in college and most of our friends were, going to the beach for spring break, I'd come to Mississippi turkey hunting. And Jimmy offered me a job out of college, and I moved here in January of '94. And, I fell in love with the Mississippi Delta and Mississippi outdoors way before I moved here. But it's just been an incredible experience, what we do and hunting and fishing and being part of this. And, you and John Taylor and I, you talk about Horseshoe and families, but, you 2 guys are married to some incredible women, Ann and Kay. And I've got a great partner in Ashley, and we started dating in college. Her daddy hunted a little bit, fished a little bit. So I think it was a little bit of a shock to her in the early days of our relationship about how much, how much time we spent hunting and fishing. And as I mentioned, when all our friends would go off to, Fort Lauderdale and Destin and Panama City for spring break, I was going to Mississippi to turkey hunt. So I think she had a clue about what she was getting into. And after a couple of years of dating, she said, "Look, we need to have a conversation about your priorities." And I'm like, "Okay, here it is. This is the beginning of the end." And she said, "I like to fish too." And I said, "Well, then be at the dock at 7 o'clock, And she began fishing with me and several of my friends, tarpon fishing primarily south of Tallahassee, and every now and then a little bit of triple tail fishing. But, we're married to 3 incredible women, and I've been so blessed that she lets me do what I love to do, and I let her do what she loves to do. She likes to be at the beach, and I like to, be outdoors, hunting and fishing. And she's been a real big part of supporting that and encouraging our children to be part of the outdoors.
Well, yeah, I've always said that if you find a successful man, or a woman, you're going to find a really amazing man or woman behind them, because it takes a partnership to be successful in life. And to really enjoy things the way that we enjoy things, particularly as it relates to the outdoors, you really have to have someone who really gets that and wants you to do it, wants you to bring the kids out and do it. Even if she loves to fish, but she doesn't really care much about hunting. But it's just kind of part of the deal. That's for sure. By the way, Ramsey Russell in a podcast asked Chuck Cage. Chuck Cage, I had him last week, this avid, incredible duck guide in the Mississippi Delta. What smell conjures up the most memories for you? I wondered, when you were telling the story about being surrounded by that speckled trout slime, that's a very specific smell. But I bet when you smell that, you think of your dad, don't you?
Absolutely. And then, we would catch alewives live bait for tarpon fishing and cast net. And inevitably, you're throwing a 10 or 12 foot long cast net and it's full, and you bring it in the boat and you can't help but get all of them on you when you're trying to get them in the live well. And that's a smell I remember from being a little boy. And, fortunately, I was out there this summer doing it again. And it's a smell that you never forget.
The same thing for me, man. I know what that cast net smells like, and there's just something about it, and it conjures up wonderful memories and time with family, and I can't say enough good things about it. Hey, John, coming back to you, if you go back to when you came out of Mississippi State, you knew you wanted to be involved in the ag business, but you didn't know at the time that you would literally spend the rest of your life in all these different kinds of businesses surrounding the agriculture business. What is it that kept you in that sort of sector of the world?
Well, first of all, I really don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up. I kind of got where I am. I've enjoyed the outdoors. You and Chris were talking about smells just then. One of the fondest memories I have was with my grandfather. And do you remember what a carbide light is?
Yeah.
And how it smelled and sounded.
Yeah.
That's the thing that reminds me of the old days, when I go in with my grandfather and he had a carbide light, we didn't have battery. You put those pellets in there and put that water in there and you'd have a little light. But that was always something that I still remember today that he did. But my grandfather introduced me to hunting. My father didn't hunt, but my grandfather did, and he was of the generation that could do anything. He could. We raised worms, we raised fishing poles, had a smokehouse at his house. We made we picked plums and muscadines, and all these things that we did. And I guess from an early age, it was entrenched in me the joy of the outdoors. There's so many opportunities in the outdoors, and I don't mean just hunting and fishing. You can pick berries. You can walk through trails throughout the state today and do different things. But it's something that's been with me my whole life. And my kids, when they were growing up, never had a Nintendo or anything like that. My kids grew up in shorts and knee boots. We just that's where we spent our time. And we're trying to pass that heritage on to my kids. I have all three of them hunt.
Mm-hmm.
I have one daughter that works for Ducks Unlimited in Memphis, but they're all involved in the outdoors. They enjoy it quite a bit. And it's kind of like Chris said about Ashley, my wife Kay allows me some time to go and enjoy the outdoors and bring my kids and bring their friends. And is Jordan and Justin, how your boys have done. I'm sure they'll pass it on to their kids.
Yeah. Well, I've always called it the glue. Look at, I know Presley. I know she lives in Jackson Hole and had the opportunity to meet her a couple of times, but I really know Pepper and Hunter. And I've watched, the friendship that they've had with my kids. And it's like, I don't care where they end up going in their lives. That's the glue that brings them back. So Justin, my son Justin lives in New York City, but he can't wait to get here for opening weekend. That's, if I didn't have that, what's the thing that's going to, I think coming home to see mom's going to be important to him for sure. But that's still the glue. It's the glue. And it keeps that family together, doesn't it, buddy?
Yes, sir. It really does. Now, not saying my children are competitive with each other. You know, I mean, who shot that deer? I want to keep, you know, and how they do that. But one Pepper, she and Hunter and I went a duck blind one day, and we were having a pretty good shoot, and these two greenheads came over, and one was to the left where Pepper was, and one to the right where Hunter was, and they both killed the ducks. And when the dog gets back, Hunter's duck's got a band on it. Well, she wants to bawl and went to crying on it. I said, Pepper, we're not crying in the duck blind now. We're not going to do that. She said, Daddy, I shoot at every duck at Hunter, she said, just so he can't get paying the band. And I didn't shoot that one.
Woo! And Chuck Cage, who I had on my show, I had on my show last week, had 119 bands. Do you have any idea how much hunting you have to do to get 119 bands?
Well, I have an idea if you hunt with Chris Gurth, because he has an idea about how to divide bands up, and he always comes to his advantage.
That's right. Hey, coming back to you, Chris. We mentioned a few minutes ago our friend Bill Howe. I call him the cat with 9 lives. I mean, he's had so many close calls. He's lucky to be alive, but he's still going strong. He's a funny dude, isn't he?
He really, really is. We've had a lot of good times with Chief, as we all know and call him, because he's large and in charge. And I can remember one night, one of the funniest moments at Horseshoe with him, and amongst many, you know, in the evenings when everyone starts coming in, because he climbs, at his age, he still climbs. And he's slow getting down, and he's the last one. You get to the point where you're worried about, do we need to go check on him? And then about that time, he's coming in, and he comes in, he gets out of his hunting vehicle and comes upstairs, and hors d'oeuvres and everybody making small talk. What did you see? What did you see? And just very, very mildly, Chief says, I think I may have shot the biggest deer that I've ever killed.
When we come back, we'll hear the rest of the story. This is Super Talk Outdoors. We'll see you after this break.
Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. I have John Taylor and Chris Gurth. They're both executive board members for the foundation, one of the sponsors of this show. But we're just talking now about fun outdoors stories. When we went to break, we're talking about our friend Bill Howe, such an amazing outdoorsman. It's really amazing, actually, that he's still climbing trees at his age. But, man, there's no stopping this guy. When we went to break, you were telling us about the time that Bill came in, everybody's kind of gathering together, and he said that he had killed the biggest deer of his life. Pick it up from there, Chris.
Great. Thanks, Ricky. And so Chief says, I've shot the biggest whitetail I've ever shot. And so everyone's excited. Let's go help him trail it and get it. And we get to the Vaughn food plot, and Julian Fayard, one of our camp members, got a deer trailing dog. He's got the dog, and I'm on his hip, and there's blood, and we trail the deer. And in very short order, we've got the deer. And Bill Howe is in the middle of the food plot, and he is just belly laughing. And he says, you tell folks you shot a doe, you can't get anybody to help you. Tell them you shot a great big buck, and you'll get the whole camp out here. And so, you know, it was a nice doe. And he knew it when he shot it, but he got the whole camp out there with him to retrieve.
Well, he's an amazing outdoorsman, and he's a really, really smart guy too. That's kind of what it comes down to. Bill, I bet you have. John, I bet you have some Bill Howe stories.
You know, as we all do. But first of all, let me say about Bill Howe. If the ox is in the ditch, he's the first person you need to call. Now, we'll get it out the ditch, but somebody's gonna break, somebody's gonna get hurt, somebody before we get out of there. But one thing that comes to mind is kind of like the same scenario Chris was talking about. It's late. Everybody comes in from the hunt. It's a nice winter night. And Bill said, well, I'm going to light the fireplace. Got a gas lighter. And on this particular gas lighter, you got to really unscrew the valve to keep turning before the gas comes on. Everybody's sitting on the hearth up there, you know, and Bill Howe said, I'm going to light it. So he puts the match down, starts turning that valve. I tell them people, y'all better move. Y'all better move. I said, I'm better move. Bill, he's been over, you know, turn the thing. When it goes off, it singes the eyebrows off his head.
Hey, our fireplace at my place is like that too, man. You better be gentle, because it just comes raging out of there, man, and it lights in a big. I think anyone with a fireplace like that knows that. But Bill's an amazing guy. Maybe one day I'll have him on the show and let him tell his stories of brushes with death that he's had. Hey, so let's shift gears for a second, guys. John, you're the chairman of the foundation, and this foundation is very uniquely positioned to support the efforts of the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, and it's been doing it for so many years behind the scenes, just doing great work, raising millions of dollars. Talk to me about what draws you to that organization.
Well, I guess, Ricky, the Lord's blessed me in more ways than I can count. And what really brought me to it was a way to give back. I think that the foundation, I think of it as that we're helping the residents of the state of Mississippi is the way I feel, by providing, we're the official fundraising effort for the wildlife, parks, and fisheries. So we feel that we're helping them. They're helping the residents of the state of Mississippi, which in benefiting the outdoors. We started the foundation started in 2003, and it's with a certain mission. And what I say right now, we're coloring outside the line. There's so many opportunities out there, and so much that we're trying to do. I mean, our biggest fundraising event's called the Governor's Hunt. We've been having the last several years at Longleaf. Started with Haley Barber and Phil Bryant and our current governor. They've all participated. We appreciate it, and it's helped our foundation. We had a $3.6 million grant from Blue Cross Blue Shield to improve the playground equipment between the Natural Science Museum and the Children's Museum here in Jackson. And it's almost completed. If the folks listening, if you get a chance to go by there, take your kids, it's going to be impressive. It really will be. And, Ricky, we think the future is with youth. We've talked about our children, our grandchildren, and we talk about the youth, but we've been very active in the AIMS program, which is Archery in Mississippi Schools. We provide scholarships to the winners. We probably had 60,000 plus participants last year. And one of the fastest growing sports in the nation is scholastic shooting. So in the state of Mississippi, there were about 60 teams that participated this year in scholastic shooting, and they had a little less than 1,000 participants. And that program started in 2015 with 4 schools and 30 shooters. So we think we're getting calls every day for how do I get my school involved. So we think the future's with the kids, not with us. And that's one reason that the foundation really interests me. How can we improve the outdoors in the state of Mississippi? How can we get more youth involved in these programs?
And you think about the number of people who have contributed to this effort. Organizations, could be businesses, could be other nonprofits that contributed toward helping. What I call, it's one of the 1,000 points of light in the state of Mississippi. The way I talk about it on my show, Coast View, all the time, is that you have all these different efforts that are underway. Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks is doing so much incredible work, but there's so many gaps. I mean, if we're going to really achieve world-class level, there's just so much money to go around. You have to have the support of other organizations, other corporations, other individuals to help fill those gaps. And we're lucky in the state of Mississippi to have so many involved in the 1,000 points of life around conservation efforts. And that's sort of the way I see the foundation. And Chris, what I've noticed too is that over the last year or two, it's not just been about raising money. It's getting more involved now in issues that are important to outdoorsmen and women. Tell me about that.
Sure. One of the neat things about the foundation is there are a lot of other groups out there that are doing similar things to help promote conservation in the outdoors. And so the Nature Conservancy, for example, there are many of the board members on our foundation that also sit on the Nature Conservancy board. John Taylor, Robert Taylor, Clay Wagner, there's Trent Malloy. And so we've got a history of collaborating with them on special projects. And the Phil Bryant Wildlife Management Area comes to mind several years back, where we collaborated with the agency and the TNC, U.S. Fish and Wildlife to accomplish that 17,000 acre acquisition. And, now the Phil Bryant WMA. And it goes without saying that a really neat opportunity to enhance public hunting opportunities adjacent to Mahana Wildlife Management Area, which is the state's largest the most utilized wildlife management area and one of the most critical pieces of hardwood bottomland habitat we have. I'd also be remiss not to acknowledge Lieutenant Governor Hoseman's efforts when he was Secretary of State to help us make that happen. Without his effort, that project probably doesn't become a reality. And when you and John talk about youth involvement and the next generation, you know, the next major project we took on with the TNC was forming a coalition, the Mississippi Outdoor Stewardship Coalition, which includes us, the Foundation, the Nature Conservancy, Ducks Unlimited, Wildlife Mississippi, Delta Council, and Delta Wildlife to push an initiative to create a dedicated funding source for outdoor recreation and conservation efforts. And I know you're very well apprised of that effort and have helped lead some of the public dialogue about it. Last year, the House of Representatives passed the Mississippi Outdoor Stewardship Coalition Trust Fund 117-2. And we're really looking forward to having continued dialogue with the legislature in this upcoming session to see if we can't make a dedicated funding source a reality, something that will create benefit for generations to come and help conserve and protect what we're so passionate about.
What's so important about that fund, and what I want to say about Super Talk Outdoors is we're going to celebrate the men and women who are making outdoors so incredible in this state. And from time to time, we'll talk about things that happen in Jackson or Washington and why it's important to you. We won't do this as a general rule, but as it relates to the Conservation Trust Fund, it's important because it's going to give us access to incredible federal matching funds. Like, for example, the Farm Bill, which is over $7 billion. We can turn 10, 15, 20 million dollars into 80, 90, 100 million dollars if we're smart about how we utilize these funds. You're talking about supercharging our conservation efforts. This trust fund would do that, wouldn't it, Chris?
Absolutely. And, you know, right now between the infrastructure bill and congressional action just this week, there's another $40 billion in federal funds approved this week. And there are additional funds in the infrastructure bill that are being contemplated. And there are more federal funds available for conservation today than any point in our history. And I think it's incumbent upon us to do everything that we can for Mississippi to obtain its share to protect these great natural resources that we love so much.
I know you said it passed the House 117-2. It didn't make it through the Senate. I hate that we lost a year, but we'll make whatever concessions need to be made so we can get this in place, so it can serve us for many years. This is a generational bill. It's probably one of the most important conservation bills ever entertained by the state of Mississippi. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Chris Gurus and John Taylor. We'll see you after this break.
I said 3 Mississippi to this land called home. I'll breathe Mississippi till I'm dead and gone. Just carry on. I'll carry on.
We live in one of the best places in America to enjoy the outdoors. So let's talk about it. It's Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. I have my friends John Taylor and Chris Gurus with me as we listen to that beautiful music by my friend Steve Azar, One Mississippi. Chris, that is a cool song, isn't it?
Ricky, when you were working on putting this show together and you suggested that you were going to talk to Steve about using the song, I just heard the snippets fading in, fading out. And last week, I said, I haven't heard the entire song. So I downloaded and I listened to it once, twice, 3 times. And in the chorus where he says, 3 Mississippi to this land I call home, I'll breathe Mississippi till I'm dead and gone. That has incredible meaning to me.
Yes.
And being a Florida boy, I think I have a unique perspective on what Mississippi is, who she is, and being in the development business, I run one end of the state to the other and trying to balance development with conservation. And, the big takeaway for me is just how important Mississippi is to me, to my business, to my hunting and fishing and the outdoor life that I try to live. And I wouldn't know Mississippi if it weren't for my Uncle Jimmy Gurus, who eternally grateful for bringing me here and introducing me to Mississippi. And I wouldn't be here with you guys and know you and know Mississippi. She's incredible to me, and I'm trying to give back a little and be good to her.
One Mississippi. Hopefully one day it'll be the state song. That's my goal. I would love for Steve Azar, the music and cultural ambassador for the state of Mississippi, to have the state song in One Mississippi. And then we'd have, as the theme song for Super Talk Outdoors, the state song. I think that would be so cool. Hey, the one place where we're all one together is when we're out in the outdoors. It doesn't matter what your political influences are. When you're in the outdoors, we're one Mississippi. John, you're lucky to have a board that gets that it does. Again, politics, take it out of the stage for a minute. If we just focused on conservation efforts in this state, it's easy to get together and create one state, isn't it?
Absolutely. You know, our board is comprised of 18 men and women that are successful in their own right, and they're like us. They want an opportunity to give back and return some of the blessings that they've been bestowed upon them, you know, and that's what they do. And I couldn't ask for, our board is a working board. As I told you earlier, we're coloring outside the line, so it's ever changing what we do. I told Chris that we got in this thing, wasn't any politics involved, but I guess there's politics in everything, Ricky.
There is. As a former newspaper publisher, I know that really well. And what I learned is that when you have the power of your conviction, you'll sleep really good at night. You may not make everybody happy, and you may have to have battles along the way. That's part of progress. I mean, part of maturation as a state is you have to go through these battles to find common ground. And ultimately, as long as the vision for what you're trying to accomplish is a better Mississippi, you can't go wrong. We may have different opinions about how to get there, but at the end of the day, I think everyone involved in any conversation we have about conservation, people have the right intentions. They really want the best for our state, and we're lucky in that way. So you got to be involved in issues. Yeah, that's just the way the world is.
I want to say one thing. We were talking about One Mississippi, but I had an opportunity. I was in the corporate world for a long time, an opportunity to leave Mississippi. And I went as far as Germantown, Tennessee, but then had an opportunity to go elsewhere. And I made the decision to come back to Mississippi. I mean, it's one Mississippi for me. I can promise that.
Well, and later in my career, I spent some time away from Mississippi, but I never lost my base station. That was part of the deal. I had to have my base station here on Back Bay. But look, it's a magical time of the year. We're coming to the end of our time together. It's been guys, I can't tell you how much I appreciate the work that you do in the community, the work you do in conservation. And, John, as you watch those leaves turn, man, and the goldness of fall sets in, and soon there won't be any leaves and deer are going to be chasing. It's a great time of the year, isn't it?
It's a special time of the year. It's one of my favorite times. You know, I tell people Mississippi's not a state, it's a club. You know, I feel like I met you through a club, met you through Horseshoe, met Chris through Horseshoe. I mean, and Chris become one of my best friends in the world.
Yeah.
Ain't count duck bands when you divide them up, but other than that, I don't.
I know. Hey, Chris. Yeah, go ahead, John.
When I first met his son, Branch, he was about 5, and he said, I was talking to him. He called me an imbecile, and of course, I still can't even spell the word imbecile. And he was 5, called him imbecile. His mama wasn't happy with him, was it, Chris?
No, sir. No, sir. She called him and said, Branch, do you know what an imbecile is? She said, no, ma'am. But nonetheless.
Well, Chris's kids, Trip, Kendall, and Branch, are 3 amazing kids, that's for sure. Hey, Chris, as you guys get ready to go enjoy some time over near the Mississippi River, man, it's a special time of year, isn't it, man?
Absolutely. We've been spending a lot of time the last couple of months getting ready for what is upon us, and we love to have a good time there and share that place with our friends and family and clients, and look forward to seeing you there soon, Ricky.
I look forward to being there, no doubt. What a special place over there on Kings Point. But anyway, listen, guys, you are the best. You're great friends. You're good friends to Super Talk. You're good friends to conservation efforts in Mississippi. Please pass on our thanks to all the members of your board who have been so incredibly focused on improving the situation in Mississippi. So without any further ado, let me just say thank you guys for joining me today. I want everyone to enjoy the outdoors. Stay safe. Stay safe. That's the number one thing. This is the time of year when you really can drop your guard. Don't drop your guard. Pay attention. And God bless you and have a great day. And we'll see you next Monday.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.